Hello, good day. I hope you are all having a good day. So, after viewing and listening to your different outputs in the oral presentation where your topic was conducting a meeting, so I have realized that I really have the need to give a supplemental discussion or a follow up discussion about this topic because I guess nobody has presented the basics of meeting or the parts of the meeting and how will the meeting be conducted. Okay, so I hope that you will still be interested to listening to this lecture video. This will only take, I guess, less than 30 minutes. So this is very important. The skill of conducting a meeting is very important, especially in your future career when you will become a department head, for example, or even a secretary of your industry. So at least you will have an idea on how to conduct a meeting, on how to prepare a document for a meeting. So after this lecture video, I might be presenting another lecture video regarding how to create a memorandum, because a memorandum is inseparable to a formal business meeting or any meetings. So there must be a memorandum to let the initiation of the meeting be documented and also to be facilitated better. So what is a meeting? So a meeting is a technique of bringing a group of individuals together to work for a common purpose. I guess one of the groups has presented this definition. So we have the same definition of the word meeting. So I emphasize here the working together for a common purpose. So the advantage of meeting is that everybody in an industry or everybody in an institution will be represented or will be heard. So in every decision that will be made by the industry or by the institution, the decision will really undergo a deliberation by the body and a consensus. So there is a consensus in decision making. So it's not only the head of the department who will decide for the body. So there are some cases that the head will decide automatically without consulting the body, but it would be better if for big events, for example, that there will really be a prior meeting before the event. So this is a technique. So the prime purpose of conducting a meeting or the prime purposes of conducting meetings are to share ideas and come up with consensus among members. Actually, I already said that. Okay, so prior to the conduct of the meeting, we need all these things to be considered. Number one, you have to send an adequate notice of the meeting. So this is the memorandum I am referring to. So before the meeting, you have to send the memorandum in the virtual setup now, or in this technology era, the memorandum may be sent via email or via messenger. But if you are just all inside the industry or inside the institution, then a hard copy might also be more effective compared to having it sent to email, because there is a tendency that the person you are sending it with might not be able to check his or her email. But anyway, for professionals, they are really having the habits of checking their emails because that's part of their routine already. So Number two, you have to enclose the minutes of the previous meeting. So when you say minutes, this is the record of the previous meeting. So I have asked one of my students, what do you mean by this? And they told me that this minute or the minutes mean that the time when the meeting will start or the meeting will end. No, that's not right. The minutes means the record of the previous meeting. Of course, this is done by the secretary. Okay, so this is usually printed in some board meetings. So uh, before before the conduct of the meeting, the secretary will provide the board of directors, for example, a copy of the memorandum. Then below the memorandum is the minutes of the previous meeting. So the secretary will also collect reports before the conduct of the meeting and also enclose it to the ring bind, for example. So in my experience, I've tried that the secretary will will bind the memorandum, the minutes, the reports and other resolutions made in the previous meeting. Okay, number four is to arrange for printing of the completed annual report, because it is very impractical. For example, if the secretary has prepared 100 pages up, so it would be quite impractical if you will just send it via email. So the better way is to really print everything and give it to the board of directors or any members of the body before the meeting, so that any member can also review the minutes of the previous meeting or the resolutions or any documents related before the conduct of the meeting. So the secretary would also arrange for the guest speaker. So this is very important. This is one of the roles of the secretary, to really send the invitation letter, for example, to the guest speaker and facilitate even the accommodation, the hospitality of the guest speaker, and also the members of the board. So arrange the hospitality, the venue, the date and time of the meeting. So as the secretary, for example, you are in Cebu, you are a board of director and you are in Cebu and the meeting will be held in Manila. So the secretary will really prepare for your accommodation in Manila and even the venue of the meeting. So the secretary will do the booking of flights and the booking of the accommodation. And this is very important, number 7. The secretary should remind the members of the meeting before the schedule. So during our virtual setup today during the pandemic, we are already into a very advanced practice where we only send a link or as meeting link via messenger, for example. So there are also some cases that there are auto-generated reminders in email, like hello Mercy, 1 hour from now the meeting will start. So there are auto-generated reminders, especially for big conferences or big meetings. So for for small meetings like internal meetings in your industry, so perhaps you can do remind them by paging or by messenger or by email. So reminding is really important, especially that not all the members of the meeting will have the same appointments in a certain day. So please remind. So what are the parts of a business meeting or even some organizational meeting? So these are the parts. Number one, we have call to order. So usually the president would say, the meeting is now called to order. So for some cases, especially in parliamentary procedures, the presiding officer or the president or the CEO is holding a gavel, and then he or she would tap the gavel. So the gavel to the block. Uh, so if you'll try to see, this is the picture of the gavel. So the presiding officer will be holding this one and tap twice during the call to order. So this under the gavel is called as the sound block, no sound block. So you will tap, or the presiding officer will tap the gavel twice for call to order, and then when he wanted the members, for example, they are standing for the national anthem or the prayer, so he will tap the gavel once. So, okay, please be seated. Like that. But in cases where you will have the national anthem, you can tap the gavel twice. Okay, so that's the start. So the presiding officer would say, the meeting is now called to order. Tap twice. May I request Honorable Agosto to lead a prayer? That can be, or in other cases, the prayer is already canned. So it depends on the setup of the meeting. So after the prayer, the presiding officer will say, please be seated, tap, like that. So the tapping of the gavel is sometimes intended uh, to bring the attention of the members of the body. The second is the roll call. So the secretary checks the attendance to determine the quorum. It's just like checking the attendance during the classes. So the secretary would mention perhaps the names of the members, like Honorable Agosto, Honorable Perez, and then the members would say present, present, present. So everything will be recorded by the secretary on whoever is absent or whoever is present. And this part of the meeting is really very important because this part will determine the quorum. So what do you mean by quorum? It means that it is the number of members where the meeting will be uh, permitted or is feasible to pursue. So for example, the members of the body is supposed to have 10. So in most cases, the quorum will be 1/2 plus 1. So as long as there are already 6 members present in the venue or in the Zoom meeting, or there are already 6 participants who have joined the meeting, so the meeting will pursue. Otherwise, the meeting will really be postponed because there will be no decisions that will be made if majority is not around. Okay, that's the power of the consensus. And number 3 is the reading and approval of the previous minutes. If there are no corrections or additions, they stand approved as read. That's the line of the president. So again, I would like to emphasize, because this is mostly, how do you call that? Mostly misunderstood by those students who are not familiar with minutes of the meeting. Minutes do not mean, or does not mean, the time of the meeting, but this is the record of the meeting. So once the secretary has provided the minutes ahead of the meeting, like the hard copy, so of course the members of the board or the members of the body we're already able to check it ahead of time. So let's just assume that they really did spend some time reading the minutes prior to the meeting. So especially if there are a lot of pages, like when we say 50 pages for minutes. So if you will do the reading of the minutes during the meeting, it will really consume much time. So it is much better that as a member of the body or a member of the board, when you were given ahead of time, so better check it also ahead of time, so that if you have some corrections or insertions to be raised during the meeting, then it will be addressed immediately. Okay, so for example, in the minutes you will see that instead of 10,000 pesos, 10,000 pesos allocation for your event, how you for what event, for example, so launching of your project. So when you say launching of your project, that's our event, and then that was your topic in the previous meeting, and then you allocated in your previous meeting 10,000 pesos for that event. But when you see it in the minutes, it is recorded that 5,000 is allocated for the launching of the project. So as a member of the body who is very keen in checking the minutes of the previous meeting, so you would probably say, may I insert or may I correct something in the minutes? So in line 43, because in some cases there are numbers at the side of the minutes. So in line 43, instead of allocating 5,000, we have agreed last meeting to allocate 10,000. So this is a mistake. So since the other members of the body will perhaps remember that they really allocated 10,000, not 5,000, so the correction will be raised. So the president will say that the minutes stand approved as corrected or added. But if there are some objections like, no, we did not allocate 10,000, we changed our mind that time and come up with a 5,000 allocation. So if there is an objection, of course, the presiding officer will moderate the the argument of the body. So if there are no objections, like everybody in the body would agree that the allocation is really 10,000, so the president or the presiding officer would again say the minutes stand approved as corrected or added, and then one tap of the gavel. Okay, but if there are no corrections, like everybody agreed to the minutes of the meeting, like it is really well made by the secretary, so the president would say, or the presiding officer would say, if there are no corrections or additions, they stand approved as read, then one tap of the gavel. So one tap meaning there is something being approved, for emphasis also. Okay, number 4, reading of correspondence. What do you mean by correspondence? It refers to letters, for example, invitation letters from other companies, or proposal letters, or newsletters, so like that. So the secretary would request, oh no, the president will request to the secretary to read any correspondence. Like the secretary would be reading that this company is inviting our company to attend to their launching of projects. So assuming that the other company also has their launching of project, so the member of the body in your own company would be informed that there is an invitation. So anybody who would be willing to attend the launching of project of their sister company, for example, might or may attend because he is informed during the reading of the correspondence. So there are a lot of correspondence, so it depends to the communications or in going communications received by the office of your company. Okay, treasurer's report. This is very common even in barangay treasurers. There are really reports or porok treasurers. So the president will ask the secretary to read. No, the caption here is mistaken. I'm so sorry. So it is supposed to be the president will request the Secretary of Finance to read or the treasurer to read the treasurer's report. So it will talk about the budget of the industry, for example, the expenses and the revenue or the remaining budget of the year. So everything that is all about financial matters that will be reported by the treasurer's report. So this is very common because I guess all companies are really having financial involvement. So it is very impossible that there is a company without finances. So treasurer's report is really inseparable to a meeting. So next, we have the committee reports. The president will call upon the chairperson of each committee to give a report or update. Like in your organization, you may have the logistics committee, the marketing committee, or the transportation committee, the food committee. So for example, if you are conducting an event, so you will have the decoration committee, the accommodation committee, the budget committee. So the head of each committee will submit a report to the chairperson or to the secretary prior to the meeting and will be read during the meeting. In order also for the board of directors or any members of the body to be aware of the flow or to be aware of the successes of each committee. Okay, number 7 is the unfinished business. So this refers to the topics or undone topics in the previous meeting, um, like for example, there is a topic or a decision making where there is a need to consult a legal officer or an attorney, but there is no existing lawyer. There is no existing lawyer in the meeting, so perhaps the matter will be laid under the table, and after the meeting, somebody would probably consult a lawyer, and then on the next meeting, the discussion of that topic will be resumed since the consultation is already done by any of the members. So, if there is really a need to lay a certain agenda under the table, then that will be considered as unfinished business during the next meeting. So number 8, new business. This is really the meat of the meeting or the main purpose of in the current meeting. So any club member may bring new business before the club. So anybody could raise, may I insert in the agenda the following. So for example, you are the head of that certain committee or you are the head of that certain department and you have a concern to be raised, so you may include your concern in the new business. So or the president may state the business and ask for a motion on it. So if there are no insertions, the president would say, if there are no insertions, then the agenda of the day will be or hereby be approved. Then one tap of the gavel. Again, if there are no insertions, then the agenda of this meeting is hereby approved. Tap. So I'm trying to emphasize it clearly. Okay, so if there are insertions, then do it before the approval of the new business. Otherwise, it would not be included anymore. So number 9 is the announcement. So just like in religious ceremonies like mass, so there are announcements at the end or before the end of the mass. So the same in meeting, there could be announcements like our next meeting would be on, including the venue and the time. And there could also be some announcements regarding other events of the industry. Okay, so number 10 is the adjournment. So that's letter J. I guess that's not so clear. That's letter J. So any member may move the meeting to adjourn. So prior to the meeting, like after the approval of the agenda or the new business, one may say that, may I move to adjourn the meeting at 4 o'clock, since I will still be doing a lot of things, or since I have another meeting to attend. So if there are no objections, of course, somebody will second the motion, like I second the motion. So the president would say, since there are no objections and Honorable Paris moved, the meeting will be adjourned at 4 p.m. Then it will be adjourned at a said time. Then one tap of the gavel. The motion is voted upon, or the president may directly say, there being no other business, the meeting is adjourned. The president is very powerful. So right after everything, or there being no other business, the president again would say, there being no other business, the meeting is adjourned. Like that. So adjournment. You can also, as the presiding officer, you could also state the time, like the meeting is adjourned at exactly 4 p.m. in the afternoon. So that time will really be recorded by the secretary in the minutes. So all the records during that meeting will be recorded by the secretary, and that will also be read in the next meeting. So if there are some decisions made in the new business, for example, so uh, that will be recorded by the secretary. So that would be all. That's quite brief. And I hope that one day or before the semester will end, we can have a workshop on this. And I hope that you can really try on how to run a meeting. Okay, I hope you have learned. This is the end. Thank you for listening to this lecture video.